Everything, all bets, 100% off when Michigan tangos with Ohio State. The Buckeyes, the #2 team of the land. Ryan Day, though, 1-3 all time against the Wolverines. Haven't beat them since his first year there in 2019 in Columbus. Second quarter, Will Howard's pass intercepted by Amir Hall takes it to the Ohio State 2. Howard had 2 interceptions in this game. First game all season. He has multiple INTs. Off the takeaway, Kalel Mullings, the senior running back, gives Michigan the 7-3 lead. We're in the second half now. Game tied at 10. Davis Warren's pass intercepted by Caleb Downs. The over-under on this game, 41.5. 10 straight matchups have gone over the over. 34-yard field goal to break the tie. Jaden Fielding, wide left. His second missed field goal of the day. Buckeyes come up empty-handed. 8 minutes to go in the game. Warren faking the handoff. Jack Sawyer, the senior, who has never beaten Michigan in his collegiate career, gets his first career interception. Is the tide now swinging for the Buckeyes? 4 minutes to go. Ohio State had to punt. It's Mullings, stuffed at the line, but then he broke it off, found 27 yards, 32 rushes, 116 for the senior. Under a minute to go, Dominic Zvada, 21 yards out. And that is how the 21.5-point Michigan Wolverines upset the Buckeyes. Here's Ryan Day.
We're very disappointed. Never thought this would happen right here. And, we're expecting to win this game and then go play in the Big Ten Championship game, and neither of those things happen. So, we don't know what's going on now.
Ryan Day's 4th consecutive loss to Michigan. Now it'll be Penn State versus Oregon in that Big Ten title. Heather Dinich joining the program. Heather, what is the fallout now here for a 2-loss Ohio State team as the college football playoff field comes into more focus?
Well, I'm expecting Ohio State not only to stay in the bracket, but to keep a first-round bye. If they're ranked in the selection committee's top 7, they have a great chance of being one of those 5 through 8 seeds. First-round home game, not first-round bye. They lost that when they lost their chance to play for the Big Ten Championship. But I think Ohio State is still in a safe spot in terms of the first-round home game. You can see from my bracket, I have them hosting Tennessee if the playoff were today. But I expect the committee to have at least a significant conversation on whether to rank Georgia ahead of Ohio State at this time. I think that Georgia, with the 3 wins against top 25 teams, that would be Texas, which is going to play for the SEC Championship, Tennessee, and then you've got I am having real brain trouble this morning. But I think Georgia's going to be ahead of Ohio State. Ohio State with 2 top 10 wins against Penn State. And I cannot talk this morning, Gary. Can
Heather,
you please save me?
It is an absolutely chaotic scene, not just in the Big Ten, in the SEC. You got chaos in the Mountain West. You got Arizona State playing Iowa State in the Big 12 title game, the first time those teams have ever met. So the chaos for all of us is actually 100% valid. If I may ask you a specific question about Ohio State now having their second loss, is this in a weird universe somehow a good thing for them instead of potentially having them meet up with Oregon again in the Big Ten Championship and then losing to an Oregon team again in the Big Ten Championship? Or does the committee see this as saying, hey, it's a rivalry game against Michigan and it was a close loss, 13-10? Is this in any way a good loss for the Buckeyes?
Well, I think that the only good thing about it is that they get a little bit of a break. I mean, any team that's not playing in its conference championship game has a chance to rest and get healthy. But this is not a good loss for Ohio State. It's not a good loss for Ryan Day. His job security is going to be called into question. The only thing it does is give them a minute to catch their breath for that first-round home game. But I do think that when it's all said and done, the pressure is on Ryan Day now to win a national title.
Yes, the largest upset loss at home for the Buckeyes since they were 27-point favorites to Michigan State. Heather Dinich with us all morning. Thanks, Heather.
First, the events in College Station for the first time since 2011, since Texas A&M bolted for the SEC. We have the Lone Star State Showdown. Number 3 Texas turning to Arch Manning just on this play. On a handful of plays, but this specifically, 4th and 2, it's a designed run. Quinn Ewers has the ankle injury, so you tuck it in the belly of the freshman, and he is in his 4th rushing touchdown this season at 7-0 Horns. A&M having trouble with the actual starting quarterback. Quinn Ewers finds Jaden Blue. Originally, it's ruled incomplete on the field. We're going to go to the videotape. Warner Wolf style. 1 foot, that's all you need. Blue, you're my boy. 61 career passing touchdowns at Texas for Quinn Ewers. Passes Major Applewhite for third most.
The layered paint schemes in the end zone throw me off, too.
Well, listen, they threw off Purdue. Remember that not top touchscreen? Trademark. Don't steal that. Quinn Ewers, it's intercepted third quarter. Will Lee, the third. Oh, Billy Lee, 3 sticks. Touchdown.
That's what they do call it.
Back the other way. 93 yards for a pick 6. That's A&M's longest since 1992. The Aggies are down 10, 17-7. And then special teams. We got offense. We got defense. It's all 3 phases, Gare Bear. All 3. Dalton Brooks is going to recover this thing. Brooks was here being the 19-yard line, and here we go. First time A&M's had a pick 6 and a block punt in the same game since 04. Amari Daniels, 4th and 1. 4th and goal from the 1. Nothing. Lost 3 yards. Steve Sarkisian digging it. He said, we controlled the game, quite frankly, dominated the game. But still, Reed had a chance. He escapes. Can't do that.
Someone's got to call Wolf.
Put it on the ground. 109,000 strong at Kyle Field. Not the result they wanted. Hook 'em, 17-7. Texas is headed to Atlanta and a date with Georgia. And speaking of, as we're back with Heather Dinich, we saw your bracket, Heather. Texas in, Georgia in, Tennessee in. You have Bama as the first team out. Why?
Well, I think that the selection committee is going to continue to honor the head-to-head results with Alabama and Ole Miss against South Carolina. I know there are a lot of South Carolina fans out there and Shane Beamer who want to see the Gamecocks in the college football playoff after that win against Clemson. And they did add to their resume. But I think the selection committee is going to keep them behind Alabama and Ole Miss. And if Alabama bumps up into that number 12 spot where Clemson was just a skinny minute ago, then they're still out of the college football playoff to make room for that 5th highest ranked conference champion, which if the playoff were today would be Arizona State, because I think the Sun Devils will be the selection committee's highest ranked Big 12 team on Tuesday night.
Okay, so Arizona State, I'm trying to think of the fighting Matt Berry's here and how they could possibly get in, but I'm also looking at an Alabama team that comes in. They've got some strong wins. They beat Georgia, and they're on the outside looking in after an Iron Bowl dominant performance. So regardless of the events in Atlanta, the events in the Big 12, you think the path is closing, narrowing, nay, perhaps blocked for Kalen DeBoer's team? Well,
to me, the only realistic way for Alabama to get back into this conversation is for Clemson to beat SMU in the ACC Championship game, because then at least raises the question, does SMU stay in the college football playoff as the ACC runner-up? It's not a guarantee. And if SMU fell out of the bracket, then you can see Alabama bump up to a safer spot. But that would be a major question for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee.
All right, Heather Dinich, we're going to hear from Paul Finebaum later in the show. He hears Alabama. His ears are perking up somewhere deep in the South here. Heather's going to be back in moments for one headline program that might have cost itself a playoff spot. Thank you, Heather. At the Carrier Dome at Syracuse, unranked, hosting 6th-ranked Miami. A win for Miami, and they go to the ACC title game. If Syracuse wins, it's a different shade of orange it's celebrating. That would be the Clemson Tigers, because they would go. Yep, Devin Grant. There was only one turnover for Miami, and it was in a massive spot. Scoop, score, blow the roof off of that place. It was our guy, Xavier Restrepo, who put it on the carpet. The only turnover for the Canes, and Grant said, listen, you punched the ball. I was grateful for it to come out. Fortunate to take it to the house. 35-28, Cuse has a lead. They were down 21-0 at one point, 4th quarter. Here comes Cam Ward. Order restored. Is X going to give it to him?
He did.
Restrepo all the way to the 2-yard line. Goes over 1,000 yards. First Canes receiver to do that in multiple seasons there in Miami. They've had some great ones. That's Damian Martinez. He's in. 10 carries, 84 yards. We're all square at 35. Kyle McCord would throw for 380. His 11th game this season with 300 yards. He finds Jackson Meeks. He said, I want to be the one who brought Syracuse football back to what it once was. LaQuint Allen. 22 carries, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. Syracuse back on top, 42-35. And then, after Miami field goal made it a little bit closer, all you need is a first down Trevor Pena is your huckleberry. Fran Brown is 9-3 in his first year at Syracuse, a 21-point comeback, the largest in program history. And from Coach Brown, a shout out to Clemson.
Butts off for it, fell short a few times, and then we got the opportunity to do this. Hey, Dabo Swinney, congrats, I got you in, baby.
And they'll take it.
Where's the lie?
It's going to be Clemson and SMU in the ACC Championship. Heather Dinich is back. Great to have college football analyst Roddy Jones on the program, as well as Paul Finebaum with us. This is the order here as we sort of go trips. We're going to go Heather first, and then Paul's going to piggyback off of that, and then Roddy after Paul. You know the order. We're going to ask the question. Heather, what's reality now for Miami after that loss?
Well, the reality is this is the biggest question for the selection committee on Tuesday night as to whether Miami is in or out. And in my bracket this week, I have them projected at number 11 and still in the college football playoff because this selection committee likes this offense and Cam Ward. They like close losses. This was on the road. I just have a feeling that selection committee chair Ward Manuel is going to talk about those close losses as he has with other teams. And they've already referenced that in the loss to Georgia Tech earlier this season when they were talking about Miami. So the Canes, to me, are still in, at least for right now.
And Randy, I can just hear Finebaum callers going ballistic after listening to Heather there. But I think they're both incredibly flawed teams. But when I think of Alabama, it's hard to get that win over Georgia out of my head. And Georgia, of course, has wins over Texas and Clemson, which may or may not get in. So it's really almost impossible for me to wrap my arms around Miami. They've had so many opportunities, and they just keep letting them slip away. I'll defer to the committee, but I would definitely have Alabama ranked ahead of Miami in this one.
Well, the thing that could help Miami is what happens at the bottom of the rankings. With teams like Texas A&M and Kansas State losing, there's room for a Syracuse or a Duke or a Louisville to jump in from the ACC with those two spots open. Miami has wins over Louisville and Duke, and obviously that loss to Syracuse on the road. So any of those teams jumping into the bottom of the top 25 could help boost Miami's resume. But before that loss to Oklahoma, Alabama was ranked. A two-loss Alabama was ranked above a one-loss Miami. So it doesn't give me a ton of hope unless that Oklahoma loss, the committee just can't get out of their minds.
Okay, as for that championship game in the ACC, Clemson and SMU, Heather, how does the outcome of that game impact the potential playoff picture?
Well, this could be significant. So on Tuesday night, pay attention to where Clemson is ranked relative to the Big 12's best teams, Arizona State, Iowa State. Because if Clemson wins the ACC, is there a chance that they could lose that first round bye as one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions if your ACC winner is all the way down the selection committee's top 25 after that loss to South Carolina. So that's one thing to pay attention to. But if Clemson does win, the other question would be how far does SMU drop? Can they get 2 teams in the college football playoff at that point? Because if SMU wins, then they really need Miami to be ranked because you know Clemson is not getting in as the ACC runner-up.
What do you say, Paul?
Yeah, I think, it's amazing to try to juxtapose which one it would go there. But I think Clemson really was given a gift. It's hard. It's really hard for me to wrap my arms around either one. I realize Clemson, thanks to the Syracuse win, has a path in to the playoff, and they may very well get it. They're favored in the game. But back to the big question, I think in terms of what Roddy said, to start valuing wins over Duke and others at the bottom of the top 25 to me is almost insanity. I realize the committee has to look at something, but look at who you've beaten, not who you've lost to.
Paul, Duke is 9-3 this year, and if they do pop into that top 25, it's one of the marks. It's a win over top 25 teams. It's one of the things that the playoff committee considers. I do have a question on where Clemson's going to be, just like Heather, because you start to wonder if Clemson's close enough Could they then potentially jump in Arizona State if Arizona State ends up ahead of them and in the Big 12 championship game and wins that? Do they value a win over a top 10 SMU team that's been fairly underrated through the course of the season, more than whatever Arizona State would face? And also Boise State as well comes into this. How far are they away from the Broncos?
All right, Roddy, we appreciate it. Paul, we appreciate it. Heather, one small thing for you. Please don't, not that you're going to yell at your kids for yelling in the background of that earlier shot, but I saw the mom face come out just for a second, and I feared for your children. So please, they're just excited. They're just excited. They've been so well behaved all season. Saturdays, best everywhere in sports. How about the best walk-off? Yeah, walk-off, and it's football. We're tied at 17, Duke and Wake Forest. This is going to be the last play. 2nd and 4, airing it out. Malik Murphy to Jordan Moore. How is he that open? And he spins in. This is what, Austin Rivers over North Carolina? That's another Duke buzzer beater.
Malik Murphy!
Kind of comes to mind. Look at Murphy as Manny Diaz and company get to 9 wins down there in Durham.
Okay, that's a great finish, but this is the best finish. UAB, Charlotte, UAB down 2 seconds, down with 3 seconds to go, rather. 35-yarder by Jonah DeLonga wide left, but UAB called for leaping. So Charlotte gets another try from 22 yards out. DeLonga! Missed left. Yikes. Charlotte now 2-0 under interim head coach Tim Brewster.
All right, best trick play. This is great. Slippery Rock against Kutztown, and Slippery Rock goes with the wide receiver designed lateral to the running back. It's Mike Solomon who laterals it to Dries Lawrence, and that's how we're going to get in. And you're like, wait a minute, how could we have forecasted a trick play? I don't know. The school's name is Slippery Rock.
The Big 12 certainly deciding to keep things interesting down to the wire. 4 teams entered Saturday with 2 conference losses. Berths in the Big 12 title game up for grabs. It starts number 16 Arizona State. They beat the brakes off Arizona 49-7. The Sun Devils finished 7-2 in conference. They win 10 games for the first time in a decade. Then number 18 Iowa State, they beat number 24 Kansas State 29-21. The Cyclones finished 7-2 in conference, and they win 10 games for the first time ever. Late last night, number 19 BYU beats Houston 30-18. The Cougars, BYU's variety, finished 7-2 in the conference, meaning a 4-way tie at the top of the Big 12 standings. One of those 4 teams being Scope Buffs, but based on tiebreakers, the Buffaloes, along with BYU, they are out, meaning it is Arizona State and Iowa State in the Big 12 title game. Those teams will meet for the first time ever next week, as playoff reporter Heather Dinich is back with us to break it down. Iowa State versus Arizona State. Heather, so where do you currently have the Big 12 champion within the playoff picture?
I have Arizona State at 15, which is a little bit of a bump, but the reality is beating up on an Arizona team that is just completely discombobulated this season isn't going to be enough to really boost them too much higher in the committee's ranking. And remember, as good as Arizona State is playing right now, they do have losses to Cincinnati, which is 5-7, and Texas Tech, which is a respectable team right now. But BYU and K-State are their best wins at this point. Is K-State still a top 25 in the CFP ranking on Tuesday night? That's something to watch. But because Arizona State would be ranked outside of the committee's top 12, the 5th highest ranked conference champion has to get a spot somewhere.
Sure.
So they would get that 12th seed, and you see them going to Penn State in the projected bracket if the playoff were today.
Red flags, yeah, it was tough to be a flag in college football yesterday. Michigan, Ohio State, Sharon Moore and company waving goodbye to the Ohio State fans. And we got a flag that's trying to be planted. Michigan players trying to plant that thing in midfield. Ohio State. Jack Sawyer runs over, rips the flag away. We got punches thrown. Allegedly pepper spray was utilized.
It was definitely pepper spray.
It was something. I don't know if it was mace. I don't know. Either way, got wild.
Mace is a rapper. NC State beats UNC. So UNC wide receiver Tyler Kraft ripping the flag away from the Wolfpack. NC State's DK Kaufman doesn't like that, so he starts a fight. Mac Brown's like, everybody get out of the field.
Yeah.
I'm done with this team. No, literally, I'm done.
Florida beat Florida State, as most teams have this season, and George Gums Jr. is like, here's a flag, take it, hold that L, hold this flag. Mike Norvell, Billy Napier got sort of woofing at each other. Billy Napier apologized after the game. It was wild down there in Florida.
Not a flag, same principle. ASU defensive lineman Jacob Rich Kongeka stabbing the Sun Devil fork into the logo. Montana Lamonius Craig does not like that. Nope. And as everybody was saying across Twitter, if you want somebody not to plant their flag on your field, you have 60 minutes to make sure that does not happen. Oh, just beat them. Fair. All right, it's Sunday. We're going to make it a fun day. It can also be a day of learning, too. Sort of like how matches are worthless on the moon. You can't plant a flag in synthetic turf.
Right.
It's woven carpet. It's like trying to put a butter knife through steak. It's just, it's impermeable.
Especially if you cook the steak properly.
Indeed.
You like
Correct.
You like it nervous.
Medium rare.
I like, give me a little medium. I'm good there. Listen, they say the sequel isn't as good as the original. You mentioned matches. We already saw Pat McAfee deal with a cannon at Texas A&M earlier this season. We had a false start. On the cannon. Perhaps the mortar, the artillery, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not in the military. I don't think these guys are either.
Whoa.
It's the Corps of Cadets, but they finally got it going, and my word, did that thing scare Pat, and not much scares Pat. He's been in a ring with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Are you accusing those young men of stolen valor? No. Miami accused Cam Ward, dart to Jacoby George, no go, but George gets caught in the net. And what number does George wear? A 3. So the net now immediately has more threes secured than Brooklyn net. Ben Simmons. Don't know his percentage from deep.
Wow.
But I'm just imagining he's not getting many threes.
You were saying there are plenty of threes at Syracuse. Sometimes you can put the equipment to good use, though. Check out SMU's Keyshawn Smith. One thing to come down with a touchdown grab and triple coverage. It's another to crash to the photographer, make sure they're okay, and then another to borrow the cheerleaders' pom-poms and celebrate appropriately. Shades of Terrell Owens. He's in great company.
Before Arizona State, this is Arizona's senior defensive assistant, Chuck Cecil, was using his head to fire the boys up, and that's fine. Do you think there's any correlation, though, that the Wildcats then soon let up 49 points is how many they let Arizona State score on them? The good thing, though, for Chuck Cecil, though, after headbutting a helmet-wearing player, he won't remember it this morning.
Okay, I was going to say, what is the good thing? It's like
He'll be all right.
Spotless mind situation.
And it's the scars, the chick-stick scars.
In glory, and glory lasts forever. You know who taught me that? My favorite college football quarterback, Shane Falco. Footsteps Falco.
I like Mox. Get him, Mox. I don't want your life.
All right, Heisman update on SportsCenter AM, and we're going to get our finalists a week from tomorrow. Cam Ward, he can probably already book his flight. The Miami quarterback threw 2 more touchdown passes in yesterday's loss to Syracuse. He's tied with Oregon's Dylan Gabriel for the 3rd shortest odds to win at ESPN Bet. They are long odds, though, plus 30,000, because everyone is trailing Travis Hunter at Colorado. All right, Paul's in for Paul in or Paul out. Let's get to Miami, Paul. This is the statement. You tell us whether you're Paul in or Paul out. The statement is this: Miami is a fraud after that performance. Are you Paul in or Paul out?
Yeah, I'm Paul in on that, because you just can't do that when you have everything on the line. And this has been a tendency of Mario Cristobal's teams at Miami. Remember last year, they had the Georgia Tech game one. They blew it. They had this game in hand. They were up 21-0, and they let it slip away on the road. I realize Syracuse is a very good team, but when you have one of the best quarterbacks and one of the best players in the country, you have to deliver. And the Miami Hurricanes always fail to do that.
Put the town on alert. Miami's a fraud. Next one. Ohio State is not a legitimate championship contender. Buckeyes, not a legitimate championship contender. Are you Paul in or Paul out?
I'm Paul out. Call me crazy, but I saw this movie a couple of years ago. Remember? Ryan Day blew them a Michigan game once again. He comes back 3 weeks later in Atlanta, has a 2-touchdown lead against Georgia and nearly pulls it off, and they would have been the national champion. This is still the most talented team in the country. Breaking news, they're not the best coach team. In fact, they're one of the worst coach teams, but they're still capable because of the talent on that roster. I think they can still do it.
Okay, before you go, Notre Dame can reach the championship game. Paul in or Paul out?
I am Paul in on that. It seems like a couple of years ago when they lost to Northern Illinois. It was actually just 13 weeks ago, and they have come back amazingly well. I'm really impressed with what Marcus Freeman has done. Yesterday they were in a tight game, and then they broke it open against Southern Cal. I think Notre Dame has a lot of runway ahead in the college football playoff. 99-yard pick six will do that for the Irish. That is Paul in on now being Paul out. Thank you, Paul Finebaum.
How much Yeah!